Hi everybody, so here's your ingredients for easy lockdown ciabatta. What we've got on the left here is some standard cake flour. 3 cups, you don't have to sift it or anything. Then the next what you're going to need is about a teaspoon, that's 5 ml of normal salt. And then 3 little containers of warm but not boiling water. Then total that's 435 ml of water that you'd use. And then the fourth ingredient, so it's actually a 4 ingredients ciabatta, is about 7 milligrams or 7 grams of yeast. And that's yeast that you can get at most places like a spa, etc. Later what we're going to do is use this rosemary and this rock salt to actually put the rosemary inside. So there's a nice rosemary flavor and taste, and the rock salt we're going to sprinkle on top just before we bake it. But we will show you all of those in a moment. Okay, let's get going. So first we're going to mix the dry ingredients. 3 cups of flour goes in. Good stuff. Then we can put the yeast in, kind of sprinkle it. Doesn't really matter because we're going to mix it now in a moment. And that's the 7 grams of yeast and the teaspoon of normal salt. Okay, there you go. Now, what I like to do is just give it a bit of a whisk, just to mix it up nicely. The flour doesn't have to be sifted or anything. And there we go. Okay, next up we're going to add the 435 ml of lukewarm water. So we make it into 3 different containers so that we can add a little bit and then see how it goes and add some more. So let's load up the first of the containers. It's the one. Okay, yeah, give it a bit of a mix. Okay, the big one. Okay, usually you can leave the littlest one for last to see if you need to put in. There we go. Alrighty, see how it goes. Very good mix, it'll get quite thick. Okay, and then we can add maybe half of the last little one. Here we go. Give it a mix again, see how things look. The dough will start to get quite thick and sticky. And definitely we can add some more. Usually I use all the 435 ml in the end. Sometimes the dough looks a little bit drier, sometimes it looks a little bit wetter for some reason, but you're pretty safe probably with the full 435. And let's mix that up. Right, so here we are with the mixed product. Now you can see what it looks like. It's quite a sticky dough, so I don't usually use my hands. You don't have to put it in a mixer. I always just do it by hand. And as long as it looks like it's pretty much, there's no dry spots, then you're looking good. And there you go, there's no need to knead the dough. And what we're going to do now is actually leave it with, I usually cover it with some plastic wrap. You can cover it with a sort of a cloth. And we're going to let it rise. And you can let it rise for anything from 1 hour. I've let it rise for 6 hours. I usually kind of probably go for 2. But all of those hours, I've always had a nice bread at the end of it. And this is almost the end of the recipe. Okay, see you later. So what I'm doing is I am just spraying some good old spray and cook or whatever non-stick spray. And I'm going to put it in the oven to heat up. Okay, so what we're going to do first is take off the hot lid. I've already sprayed my cooking spray. I took that Himalayan rock salt, crushed it a bit. You don't want it completely fine. You just want it so it's still crystally. And I'm going to sprinkle maybe a tiny little bit like that on the bottom of the pan. You'll see in a moment. The point of this is we're going to actually have a little bit of salt on the crust, so when you cut a slice, you have a salty kind of flavor. Next up, what we do, we check this out, and there you can see it's risen a heck of a lot. So what we're going to do is fold this in now, and in that process I'm going to add my rosemary pieces just for a nice flavor. You don't have to do this, and you don't have to do the additional salt. So I'm going to put oil on my hand so it doesn't stick. You don't have to put on the left hand, and essentially you kind of just fold it in a way on itself, and sprinkle a bit of rosemary as you go. Fold it in. Now this is supposed to help trap some of the bubbles. Sometimes you get quite a nice bubbly one, sometimes you don't. Just always tastes nice though. Sprinkling a bit more, and again just kind of doing this a couple of times. It gets quite sticky, so it stays together quite nicely, and if you've got oil on your hands, you're good to go. And I like the rosemary, gives it a very nice flavor. In fact, I'm just going to chuck all that in. That's about a sprig this long that I took all the leaves off. And here we go. So my pan is nice and hot at this point, and this is pretty much coming together. You can see it. And what I'm going to do now is just plonk it in the pot. So it's going to go on top of that rock salt, so the rock salt will be underneath. Now, some people use a Dutch oven, the sort of more oval-shaped cast iron pot. I don't have one of those, so I get a round bread, which is still very nice. And you hear it sizzle a little bit. And what we do here is we take some more of the rock salt, and again, we just sprinkle it on top, so you'll get that nice little salty taste as you bite into it. Okay, now you put the lid on. Oven's at 230 degrees. Put it in the oven again with the lid on for 30 minutes, and then for the last 15 minutes up to 45 minutes without the lid, and you'll get a nice brown look. Okay. I have a dirty hand. Okay. So this is after 30 minutes. I've taken it out, taken the lid off. I'm going to put it back in for 10 to 15 minutes. And after the last 10 to 15 minutes, this is what we have. And there's the final product. Didn't stick to the bottom of the pot. Some people use a baking paper underneath when they put it in the pot. I just find that gets stuck to the bottom of the bread. So a spray and cook or baking spray works perfectly. And there you go.